there's a quiet unraveling unfolding behind the scenes of everyday life. The once stable 9-to-5 job, the very structure that shaped entire generations, is facing an unprecedented crisis. Headlines in reputable outlets like the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times have begun to highlight a reality many sense but rarely articulate. This century-old framework, designed in an era of factory whistles and assembly lines, may finally be crumbling under the weight of modern complexities. This begs the question, is this the long-overdue collapse of the 9-to-5 job? In 1926, Henry Ford and labor leaders negotiated the 9-to-5 work week, 8 hours for work, 8 for rest, 8 for leisure. Back then, it was a groundbreaking labor win, a humane alternative to grueling 14-hour shifts. But as reported in historical analyses, published by outlets like The Atlantic, that schedule was tailored to assembly lines where productivity could be measured by tangible output per hour. The bell that marked the start and end of a shift made sense when tasks were repetitive, uniform, and location-bound. Fast forward to the 21st century, work is more complex, digital, and varied. Software coding, marketing campaigns, financial modeling, customer support across time zones, creative content production. According to a 2023 report in Harvard Business Review, only about 30% of today's workforce in developed economies engages in traditional factory floor tasks. Yet the 9-to-5 persists, rigid and universal, imposed even on knowledge-based professions where productivity can't be measured by how long one sits behind a desk. In recent years, surveys reported by Bloomberg and the New York Times show a rising dissatisfaction. Over 60% of employees in white-collar sectors say the traditional schedule hinders their efficiency or well-being. It's not just inconvenient, it's increasingly absurd. What we're seeing now is the strain. Technology has decoupled work from place and time. Clients and teammates may be scattered across continents. Tasks ebb and flow in complexity and urgency. But the system is buckling. Productivity plateaus, burnout spikes, and employee retention falters. The question is, as this archaic schedule nears its breaking point, what new models might replace it? Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your support is appreciated. Thank you. Recent headlines ring alarm bells. Major tech companies trimming tens of thousands of positions in a matter of weeks, even as job postings for critical skills remain unfilled. According to data from LinkedIn's economic graph and analyses published in the Wall Street Journal, there's a perplexing mismatch. Companies claim they can't find qualified workers, while simultaneously shedding staff. This contradiction might not be a simple case of poor HR strategy. Experts quoted in Fortune and MIT Sloan Management Review suggest that the rigid 9-to-5 model indirectly fuels this paradox. Employees are shoehorned into uniform roles and schedules that don't reflect actual business needs. Instead of adapting work hours to match strategic projects or seasonal demands, companies get stuck with full-time staff who may be underutilized. When economic uncertainty hits, they resort to mass layoffs to balance the books, even though they'll soon complain about talent shortages when business picks up again. Meanwhile, workers who survive the cuts feel trapped. They're required to fill chairs for a set number of hours, regardless of actual workload. This mismatch between rigid hours and dynamic talent needs contributes to disillusionment and disarray in the labor market. As companies stumble under these contradictions, a curious new trend emerges, one that might hold clues to the underlying structural flaws. In recent years, a secretive phenomenon has surfaced: overemployment. This term gained traction after investigative pieces in The Guardian and Bloomberg Businessweek exposed a subculture of white-collar workers holding down 2, sometimes 3, full-time remote jobs simultaneously, all under the radar of their employers. These individuals orchestrate complex schedules, toggling between Slack channels and Zoom calls, hoping no one notices their divided attention. What drives such behavior? It's not just greed. According to interviews published in the Washington Post, many are seeking financial security amid economic uncertainty. Stagnant wages, rising living costs, and the desire to diversify risk push people to exploit the rigidity of 9-to-5 rules. Because employers measure productivity by seat time rather than meaningful output, some workers realize they can game the system. If you must log 8 hours, why not log 8 hours twice? Just for different companies. This workaround highlights desperation and a deep structural flaw. The standard workday isn't aligned with actual productivity or value creation. It's a relic of a world in which supervision and control mattered more than outcome. Overemployment is a symptom of workers attempting to reclaim autonomy and financial stability in a system that fails to reward efficiency or skill proportionately. If knowledge work flows irregularly, why do we remain chained to a static schedule? In the early industrial age, productivity correlated with visibility. Workers performed tangible tasks, and managers could easily measure output by simply watching the process. Today, knowledge work is different. A software developer might spend 2 hours deep in code to accomplish a week's worth of value, then need a break to think. A strategist might have brilliant insights after a morning run rather than at a desk. Yet many corporations insist on enforcing the 9 to 5, reinforced by digital surveillance tools that track keyboard activity. According to a 2023 piece in the New York Times, sales of productivity monitoring software skyrocketed after the shift to remote work. Paradoxically, this surveillance rarely improves actual outcomes. Instead, it encourages presenteeism, employees appearing busy rather than truly engaging in productive tasks. Why cling to a model so out of tune with reality? Experts cited in the Financial Times point to legacy corporate cultures and a desire for managers to affirm their authority. If there is a shift away from rigid hours, might we see more genuine productivity and less time wasting? The gig economy isn't new, but its rapid expansion tells a story. According to a 2023 survey by Upwork, nearly 40% of the U.S. workforce engaged in some form of freelance or contract work. Platforms like Fiverr, Uber, TaskRabbit, and remote staffing sites have exploded in popularity. Flexible hours, the freedom to choose tasks, and the possibility of working from anywhere appeal to those weary of rigid schedules. This shift is often framed as empowerment. But analysts writing in The New Yorker and The Guardian caution that it's also a response to frustration. Workers yearn for control over their time and environment. The traditional 9 to 5, with its daily commute and fixed breaks, is out of step with the diverse personal circumstances of today's workforce. But is this apparent freedom all it's cracked up to be? Freelancing promises autonomy, but also comes with uncertain income and personal risk. How do these financial realities compare to the once cherished stability of a full-time paycheck? Leaving traditional employment means leaving behind the bundled safety nets, employer-sponsored health insurance, retirement contributions, paid time off. A 2023 study by the Kaiser Family Foundation showed that individual health insurance premiums can be significantly more costly than group plans. Without employer matching, retirement savings may stall, leaving gig workers vulnerable in old age. For some, the higher hourly rates or project fees compensate. Highly skilled freelancers often command premium rates. But many others struggle, forced to take on more gigs just to break even. Articles in Bloomberg highlight the two-tier freelance economy, a small cohort thriving and a larger group scraping by. Is this truly freedom, or just trading one set of dependencies for another? The original promise of full-time work, steady income, predictable advancement, has been eroding for years. As more workers chart their own paths, the cracks in the old model become clearer. But within this new ecosystem, a select few stand out, earning more per hour than they ever could in a traditional role. Why do a handful of experts thrive, while regular employees remain stuck in low-leverage positions? In a market unbound by location or set schedules, scarcity and skill become the true currencies. A cybersecurity expert with a rare certification or a top-tier software architect can set their terms. Consulting firms like McKinsey and boutique agencies featured in the Financial Times note that global clients will pay a premium for specialized talent, often far above the equivalent of a standard salary. But for the average employee, stuck in roles that don't differentiate them in a global market, the 9 to 5 becomes an anchor that prevents them from exploring multiple income streams or focusing on skill building. As a result, we see a widening gap, a small class of project-based mercenaries thriving on their flexibility, and a larger workforce left in antiquated systems that waste time, talent, and morale. This discrepancy raises a pressing question. If the best players have learned to navigate outside the 9 to 5, how long before large corporations adapt by leaning more heavily on contract talent? And what does that mean for job security? As some workers find ways out of the system, corporations are also evolving, often in ways that prioritize efficiency over traditional employment relationships. Companies respond to economic uncertainty and rising labor costs by shifting to a more flexible workforce. Staffing agencies, professional services firms, and independent contractors allow corporations to outsource risk. When demand ebbs, they can release contractors without the public spectacle of mass layoffs. This trend, highlighted in the Wall Street Journal, shows a steep rise in contract hiring, even in sectors once known for stable employment. In this environment, the definition of job security is eroding. Traditional employees may still exist, but they sit alongside a rotating cast of contractors who handle specialized tasks for a few months before moving on. The days of a lifelong career at one company fade into history. Instead, we have a fluid marketplace of talent. Efficient, yes, but at what cost to long-term stability and worker well-being? As companies reshape the workforce on their own terms, governments and regulators are starting to push back. Will these interventions protect workers' freedom or limit their newly found flexibility? The future is unwritten, but experiments abound. High-profile companies in Europe and the US have trialed 4-day workweeks, as reported in The Guardian, showing boosts in productivity and employee well-being. Others are testing asynchronous work patterns. Teams spread across time zones who collaborate without the tyranny of synchronized clocks. Outcome-based contracts, where payment ties directly to deliverables rather than hours logged, are gaining traction. Some nations experiment with universal basic income, providing a financial floor that could empower workers to negotiate better terms. But these models are works in progress. Not all will succeed, and each innovation comes with trade-offs. The stability of the old system was always partial. Many workers were excluded or exploited, but it was familiar. The new landscape is fluid, offering opportunities and risks. Will it deliver fairness or entrench inequalities? The answer depends on how quickly markets, policies, and cultural mindsets can adapt. The collapse of the 9 to 5 is not just a story of a bygone era giving way to the unknown. It's a chance to reconsider what work means and how it fits into our lives. Will the future bring truly flexible frameworks that respect both workers and businesses? Or will we stumble into a new form of inequality, masked by freedom of choice? These questions remain urgent. Will the chain reaction spark new forms of economic stability or trigger the next great crisis? Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. You can check out another video that is now on your screen.